Hello and welcome to Python RPA, an exciting product to easily automate all of your business tasks. Whether it's desktop, office, or web applications, you can use Python RPA with confidence. In today's lesson, we will review various activities to build automation processes. We will build a small project to see how to make bots with Python RPA. Open the software on your desktop and let's get started. Well, this is the screen you will see once you open the software. Let's create a project by clicking the Create a New Project button. In the pop-up window, let's enter the name. Let's make it Demo123. And then we have to specify the folder where the project must be saved. That's it. And then click Create Project button. There are three modules in the upper left corner, which are Actions, Projects, and Variables, where Project is the main one. The Scenarios menu contains your projects. In our case, there's only one main project there. Let's click it. We see the project start point on the screen. In order to move the activities in the project workspace, press and hold the space button. Click Start and move it around. To zoom in or zoom out, use your mouse wheel. There is an Actions panel which contains various activities to build bots. There is the Variables sections where variables can be set. There are logs at the bottom of the screen with system logs, run bot logs, and detailed debugger logs. To start with, let's take a look how the platform works with desktop applications on your computer. Let's add a new scenario file. Click the File menu, select Create Scenario, and call the scenario Desktop Automation. Click Create and open it by clicking on it on the left panel. You can see the name on top. You can switch between scenarios here. Let's say we have a folder where we have an Excel file with employee data. Let's leave one row there for now only. We will read the file. Then we will launch the address book application and enter employee data into it. Let's start. First, we have to read data from the Excel file. We find the Excel section in the Actions panel and select the Read Data activity and connect it with a start point. This connection shows which activity has to be executed first. In order to disconnect the activity card, we have to disconnect it from the preceding card. In other words, connect from left to right, disconnect from left to right the same way. We can't disconnect it from right to left. Let's select the file path. Click on the Browse button. Open the File Explorer and select the file. Since the file contains headers which we do not need, we specify the cell which we start reading from as A2. Once we have read the Excel file, we have to launch the free address book application. We use Run Application Activity card in the Application section. We can add the activity card by dragging it, or we can press the right mouse button in the workspace, enter the card's name and select it. We further on connect it with a preceding card. Now, the top right connection node on the card connects the activity with the following card. the bottom one to the error handling routine. We will review error handling routine in the following lessons. Further on, we have to select the application we need to work with the Run Application card. We can select it through the Browse button, or we can press the double arrow link in the File Path field. If we press it, a window opens to the right side with an expanded screen to enter text. We can also save the parameters to a variable or to the configs field. The config data is necessary to launch bots in various modes. For example, let's create the first config entry. Double-click in the field and enter config name, in this case default configuration. We open it up. Here we can enter config parameters, app path where the application is stored. Click the plus sign and it is saved. One of the config's entries has to be the default one. If we have created the default entry, it will be used first by the bot. If we create another one and call it second config and enter the file path, and do not specify it as the default one, the default entry will be read first during bot execution. We can add various entries there. For example, let's add the path of the notepad. We can add our Excel file address there as well. Now, how do we use these variables? We copy the variable name and enter it into the screen on the right, wrapping it in double curly brackets. This allows the studio to understand that this is not text, but a variable. Well, for every line of data in our file, we have to execute a process of entering that data into the app. For that purpose, we use the loops section. In this case, we use the for each activity. The for each activity allows to cycle through the data set which we have received. Now we need to reference the table which we have received when reading the Excel file. For that purpose, we click the ID number in the Read Data Excel activity, and it automatically gets copied to the loop activity. As you can see, this is the activity card ID number. It automatically gets wrapped into curly brackets so that the studio understands that this is the reference to the result of the card activity execution. We therefore have passed the array which we received while running the Read Data card. Let's create a variable for iteration through data. We enter raw and then raw index in the following field. Now we can move the card. Now let's see what we have to do with each line of data in the table. We have to press the New button in the application, fill in the data fields, and then press Save and Close, and then repeat. We first start with pressing the New button in the app. We use the Desktop Actions section to work with the desktop applications. We will review them all in the following lessons. We drag the desktop click card to the workspace. Connect it to the previous card. Now we have to get the so-called selector. The selector is the address of the element which the robot has to press. We click the Browse on the card. A special extension gets launched. When we point the mouse to an element, it gets highlighted. The extension understands that it can interact with the element. We point the mouse to the New button, wait until it gets highlighted, press the Control button, and then press the left mouse button. We have received the selector. It is the address of the element data. We can edit it in this screen. For example, there's an entry, title, send your testimonial, click here. That part changes, and if it is not present, the bot will not understand that this is the same element. Therefore, we can shut off this parameter by unchecking it throughout the selector. We click the Submit button and the selector was transferred to the activity. Now the robot understands which button to click. Every card has different parameters. In this case, click options, for example. We use left click in this case. Thus, the robot will press the New button. Further on, we have to wait until the new screen appears, the new element. We use Wait for Selected to Appear activity. Connect the activity card and press the Browse button. Now we get the selector and it is ready now. We set the wait time for 30 seconds. That means the bot will wait for the element to appear for 30 seconds. As soon as it appears, the bot will continue. The next step will be to enter data into the desired field. We can use desktop set text activity. Since in the previous card we waited for the needed element, we can press the Inherit button. This activity will then enter data into the field specified previously. We enter the value we need to enter into the app. In our case, it is the raw of the Excel file. We use the variable called raw, surrounded by curly brackets, and then specify that we have to enter its 0 element. In other words, the first column of the table. We will further enter the first name and the last name into the app. We can copy the card by highlighting it and using copy paste and then connecting it. In this case, we have to unselect the inheritance since we're working with a different element. We click the Browse button, press Ctrl left click and get the element address. We then enter the variable value, which is raw1, to get the first name. Now, let's see how else we can enter text. Sometimes the set text activity does not work because software may be written not in compliance with Windows specifications. In that case, we can enter text with the Enter Text activity. Let's first click in the desired field and then add Enter Text activity and add the text we want. Enter Text emulates text entry the same way a human would do that. We set the text value as raw2. So far, we have entered data into the fields. Let's now press Save and Close and see what we have gotten. We add the desktop click activity card. Well, let's move the activities a bit. Connect the cards, click the Browse button, point the mouse to Save and Close, and it's ready. Let's see how the bot will execute. We close the application, start the bot. Well, we get an error. The bot did not wait enough for the application to appear and stopped. We can see the error text at the bottom of the screen. For example, bot could not find element by selector, and it will show which card generated the error. So the bot did not wait long enough for the application to appear and generated an error. Therefore, prior to pressing any buttons, we have to wait for the button to appear. So we first disconnect the card and add wait for selector to appear activity card. We then find the element we want to wait for. Now the bot will first wait for the element and then we'll start processing the interface. We set 30 seconds wait time and connect the card. Well, let's try it again. As you can see, the bot worked just fine. Now, let's add a few more entries to our file and see how our process works. Save the file, close it, and start the bot again. Well, let's close the app. Here it starts. Data is being entered. Excellent, it all worked. Now let's get back to our cycle. Once the cycle finishes, we need to close the app. Before we proceed, let's take a look at the for each activity. While most cards have two write nodes, one connects the card to the following activity, the other starts the error handling routine, the loop section has three exit nodes. The first node connects everything that is executed within the cycle. The second node connects actions which have to take place after the cycle finishes. For example, we want to press the exit button once the cycle finishes. Aside from desktop actions, we can use the activities which use the computer vision. For example, CV click. Connect the card to the second node. In other words, the activity will be executed once the cycle finishes, and press select. Then press capture. We select the element we need and then select send. We further must select the level of confidence for the image match. In other words, the percent the images coincide with each other. 0.9 fits almost all of the cases. And we'll start the bot again. The The bot starts. It enters data. And that's it. The bot has finished execution. Let's take a look. At the bottom, we see execution logs where the consecutive activities are displayed along with their work result. For example, the wait for selector to appear returns true or false. In other words, if the card will not find the element within 30 seconds, it will return false. And the result can be further processed. We will see how to do that in the following lessons. Let's move on with the project. So far we have worked with a desktop application and an Office application. Well, let's take the next step and see how to work with an internet browser. Let's make another scenario and call it Browser Actions. Okay, the scenario is created. Let's open it. And let's do the following. We will open Wikipedia, enter the text into the search field and do a search and see the results. All of the actions with the browser must start with the Open Browser Activity card. We must specify the path to Selenium WebDriver in the card. Select the file. There are drivers available for all of the popular browsers. You can download them from the Selenium website. You may also specify the path where all of the downloaded files will be stored. Next, we use the Open URL card. Right-click, type it in. Here we have the card. Connect it. Here we can see the inheritance field, where the Open URL card refers to the Open Browser card in order to understand which browser to open the site in. We further on copy the site address and insert it into the URL field. We will use WebClick for our next action. If you recall, we use selectors to identify desktop elements. We use Selenium XPath in web applications. We will review using XPath in the following lessons, or it may be done on Selenium website. We click the Browse button, and the platform starts to highlight elements in the browser. In order for this to work, you need to install Python RPA extension. The installation and the file itself will be reviewed in a separate lesson. We click on the search field. The XPath was copied. Next, we find the Enter Text card. Connect the cards. And let's make the search RPA. Instead of clicking the magnifying glass in the search field, we will add the Enter keystrokes. We will select Enter keystrokes for that purpose. Specify the key we will use. It will be Enter in this case. We can enter other keystrokes into that field like Control or Alt. And let's see what happens. The site was launched, RPA text was entered, Enter key was pressed, and here is our browser and the page we needed. Now let's take the next step. We can get text from the website. Let's read text from the open search page. We will use Get Text Activity Card for that. Let's look at the search page. Let's say we need to get the first entry from the search page. We pull the card, connect it, and click the Browse button. We get the XPath, and let's give it a try. As we can see in the logs, the text was read. A more detailed review of browser actions will be presented in separate lessons. Now, the last thing we need to add for the browser to close and all supporting windows to go, we need to add the quit card. In the quit card, we need to specify the card ID which initially opened the browser. In other words, we refer to the Open Browser Card ID. As the last step, let's examine how to use conditions and to launch scenarios we have prepared from a different one. We return to the main scenario. We go to the Application section and select the Run Scenario Activity card. We click the Refresh button to pull up the existing scenarios and then select the Desktop Automation one. Let's pull another Run Scenario card and select the Browser Actions one. Let's see how it works with the if activity. We will also review the Run Python script activity. The platform allows to add Python code to the project. We pull the card and press the double arrows in the Python script field. In the screen on the right, let's enter a variable with a value browser. And then add the code to return this value. Now, this activity will return the value stored in the variable var. Now, let's add the if activity. The first node on the right of the card selects an action if the condition is true, the second if the value is false. True for the browser action scenario, false for the desktop. In the if card, we select the ID of the script card and set the condition. In other words, if the value equals browser, the browser action scenario will be launched. Let's start it. As we can see, the browser was launched, and closed. Now let's change the condition. We'll change the value to desktop from browser. The condition will return false and the desktop automation scenario will be launched. Let's start it. And this is exactly what the bot is doing. These cards could be connected to each other. The scenarios will be launched consecutively. The desktop automation is launched first. And the browser actions next. Now we will review how to pass values from one scenario to another in the following lessons. That's it. You did it. All right, let's review what we have done today. We learned how to create scenarios. We learned how to work with desktop applications. We learned how to work with browsers, use conditions, and use Python scripts. You did a great job. Come back for more lessons on Python RPA. Thank you.